is the Weekly Cat Podcast, and today I'm gonna bore you a little bit. If you want to stick around, I'd appreciate if you did, but if you didn't, I understand. I really do, but I'm a little bit more type A than the average person, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you the most type A podcast of all time. And that's my little gift to you, or my little torture, if that's what you like. But I'm gonna be talking about today how to do well in college classes. Look, they're not so different from high school classes that you're going to be in completely different waters, which is why it's sometimes almost worse, because you go in and it feels the same. And you're like, oh, this is school. This is more school. This isn't so different than before. So you put yourself into a more settled mindset than maybe you need to be in, because if you're more willing and more open and more kind of a little bit scared to go in and try new things, then you'll be ready for the new things that are there because you're prepared for them and you're looking for them, versus having a kind of cocky attitude going in and then thinking later, oh man, like there's something that's hitting me from behind that I didn't expect because you weren't looking for new and different things. So that's why I'm talking to you today. That's why I'm fishing out this advice and laying it down. But I understand that, some people don't want to spend 20 minutes listening to somebody tell them more about their schoolwork. That's not really something you want to be doing in your free time. I mean, it's something I've done in my free time plenty of times, but maybe I shouldn't be so eager to share that information. I should probably be more embarrassed about that, but I have more energy to come on here and tell you guys what's happening. So I'm going to do that. And I think that if it can help you, I'm thrilled. If you don't want to listen, that's your choice, but I understand. One more thing before I get to my list is that I hope there's not too much background noise in here, because I can hear folks moving in the hallway, and I moved in to Simon's Rock, and I've been here for a couple of weeks now, and I'm so excited for all the returning students to come back. But right now the dorms are loud and noisy, so if people start talking in the hallway, I swear it's not my fault. I don't have control. I'm just a measly peer mentor with no ability to punish anybody by my own hand. So, give me some slack is all I'm saying. All right, and with that, we're on to number one. And number one, my advice, my first little tidbit of advice, is related to the syllabus. So let's start early. You're in the semester, you're going in, first day. What are you going to do? How are you going to start going off right off the bat so that you can do well? That's the right mindset to have, I think. When you're waiting till the end, you're waiting for all the new things that are different to you and all the things that come up and surprise you to come up and surprise you, and then you have all this work to do. So starting right off the bat with whatever you're going to do is the most useful piece of advice I can give you. Don't wait until you have all these things to do and you're tired from the end of the semester to have to do everything. Start right away with what you have to do, get things done, be prepared, be ready to do things. And easier said than done, I realize that, but it's much easier in the end. If you start and are responsible for your work at the beginning, you have so much less work to do at the end. You have so much less to do. If you go in and on the first day, you just sit down and you decide that you're going to start and you're going to do your work on time and you're going to be ready about it and reticent and capable of it right away, then there's nothing that's gonna bog you down at the end. You start with small things, like you complete your assignments all on time, but that's just one assignment. To start off, it's just one assignment. So you get something, do it early, hand that in, you feel good about yourself, and then you push to do that in the future. And I'm gonna wait a second because people are talking. So if you're waiting until the end of the semester, until you understand what's going on, you're never going to understand. There are always new things that are going to bog you down and hit you from behind. And that's just the way that college works. That's just the way that life works. That's the way that school works. So if you're waiting for someone or something to let you know how to do those things, they're not going to. You have to take the initiative upon yourself. And that's some tough love advice for me. It's just some tough love. So that's kind of my main thing. If you start planning now for what you're going to put your energy into and what time you're going to do things, then the finals are going to be so much easier. And finals generally don't even matter that much if you are already aware that your grade is passable or that you're settled in what you're doing. Finals don't really matter all that much because you're already cruising for a bruising, So start early is the best thing I can tell you. And yeah, I'm saying that like it's just the most simple thing to ever exist, and the most simple activity that I could do is, handing in my homework 4 days early. And it's not, but once you get into that mindset, it becomes much simpler. And that mindset is now what I'm going to be talking about, because number 2 is the mindset of college is not the mindset of go home and do homework. The mindset of college is you're always doing work and everything else is blended into that same thing. I used to think of my work as separate from my school. Like, I'm going to school now, I will do homework later, I will do my things then this time, I will take free time this time, and that doesn't really work. If you go at a slow pace and do your homework and take breaks in between and don't expect it to be done at a certain time and don't expect to start and finish within a certain amount of time, it all comes out much more simply. Instead of staying in the mindset of, when you're sitting in class all day and you're like, okay, like I'll go home and then I'll do my homework, but that's not worrying about it now. Don't get into that place here, because once you're in college, all changes a little bit. Like I keep saying that it all changes. And it doesn't change that drastically. I don't want to scare anybody, but it does change, and it does make you more responsible for what you're doing. And I think in a lot of ways, the work is so time consuming that having it kind of spread out over longer period of time than just having a set block of time to, I'm going to do work now, and just expecting that your time is going to be spent doing work is the greater baseline to be at, because then you have more time to go do things with friends when you want to, because you know that you'll be doing work when you get back, or you'll be doing work at this time or that time. It's not like you missed your time for work and now you're going to not have any time, because if you're just expecting that you're always going to be doing work and you don't break out of the mindset of a student, then you get to do everything under that umbrella and under that mindset umbrella, and it's not as difficult. I know that's a little confusing. I'm listening to myself and I understand what I mean. It might be more difficult for you to understand what I mean, so I'm going to break it down a little bit further. I walk through my day not expecting that at 4 o'clock I'm going to sit down and do homework. During my day, I know that whenever I have a chance and I'm alone and there's work to be doing, I will be doing work. And that's tiring. So I know that I will also have a lot of times when I just will put the work aside and not do work. But I don't have to worry about missing that certain time that I set aside to do work, because I know that the next instant I get, I will be doing work again, unless I also have to rest. And then the deadline comes up and you have to think about doing work. But if you're always in the mindset of getting ready to do work and you're never waiting for one specific chance and like, I'm going to rest until this point, then all comes much easier and it comes and goes much easier. So why is that so different from high school? I can't really tell you. I just know that in high school, I used to be the way that I'm talking about, where, after school, I would know that I would go home, have an hour break, and then do work. And there's a set amount of time between start and end of work, because that's just what I would be doing. And that would work for me. And there was if I finished my work before going to bed, then I could go do other things, but usually that didn't happen. Well, yeah, just for me, because I'm very busy, but it would be a set amount of time. Now, since you have classes throughout the day, people make a mistake of not thinking about the times in between classes to do work and pushing it off until after they get back or other things like that, when really the best times to do work are sometimes when your head is right in it and right after you've come out from class. And that's the best advice I can give on that subject. Now, if you're starting from the beginning, like I talked about in number 1, the best thing to do is this piece of advice, which is number 3. Number 3 is the syllabus percentages page. You may not expect this to be as impactful as it is, but when you get your syllabus on the first day, the page that you want to focus on most is percentages. Each professor will hand you one that tells you things about the class, office hours, times of the actual course happening in person, and what the homework is generally, what's expected of you. Sometimes, some syllabi are much more in-depth than other ones, so, there's a difference there. But I would say, in general, they'll always have a percentage page, which tells you what percent of the grade goes to where. And, oftentimes it'll be like 10% participation, something homework, something tests, something for quizzes, different from exams, or projects, something like that. That is the most useful piece of information you can get. I can't tell you how many times my downfall has been putting exorbitant amount of effort into things that aren't all that high percentage for my final grade. Sometimes those things that you put a lot of effort into, they'll help you understand the material more, which will help you with tests or exams or whatever. But more times than not, if they're lower percentage, they don't actually help you that much because the professor has thought about what is going to make you understand the class most and the course material most. Because of that, you should always pay attention to the percentages because the professor made those and they know what they're doing. So if test is for 40% and the homework that you have every day after class for a semester is 10%, maybe the hour that you spend on that homework every night isn't quite worth it. And maybe what you could spend the time on instead is studying for that test that you know is going to be more worth it, 20% more worth it. And still do your homework, of course, but maybe not put in as much energy as you could into things like preparation for that test and for that exam that's going to come later and that's going to become more important. So in the vein of that, in the vein of all the syllabuses, I don't even know, and all the syllabi will be different and you won't know or won't be able to expect what the professor specifically had in mind, I'm going to go on to the next point I have, which is point number 4. If I've already done 4, I'm sorry, but we're starting from 4 now. So for number 4, my advice is to know that all the professors are very different. I have had so many professors that I did not expect to teach in the way they did, or did not expect to test in the way they did. Because all these professors, they come from different backgrounds, they come from different places, and they're not teaching with one another. It's not like a curriculum at a high school where they're very closely bound with one another because they all lead kind of separate lives in separate fields. Maybe they'll be bound with people in the same field or the same subject area as them, but you can't expect a French teacher to grade in the same way a math teacher does. And those professors, they all have specific ways in which they want you to take their class, but they're not going to tell you the specific way in which they want you to take their class, and probably if they did, they wouldn't be able to say it in words. It's not that easy. They're not gonna be there telling you exactly how to study for each exam. So the best thing you can do is know your professors. Know what it is they want. Talk to them, get a sense and an idea of what each exam is gonna look like, and know that the first exam is gonna be worse than the rest of them. When you go into a course, you don't know exactly what they're gonna be like I've said. They're all different. So while you're still getting to know them, during the first exam, you're going to have a little bit of a worse grade. And you should expect that and try your best to know as much material as you can really well so that it doesn't matter so much what the test is about. However, there's not everything you can do because you really only know how they test and how they grade after you've done it. So after you've handed in the first homework, you know how they're going to be grading it. And after you've completed the first exam, you know how they're going to look at it and how they're going to see that. So, or what the exams are going to look like in the first place. So you don't really know, and you can improve from that. And that's the most important piece of it, is that it gives you a chance to improve and perfect whatever they want. If I study in the same way for one course as I do in another, it doesn't matter how much I study, I'm going to do it poorly, just for me personally. So what I like to do is talk to each of my professors and ask them about the exam, or during class ask them about the exam if they're open to that, or email them and ask them exactly what kind of questions are going to be on it, if there's any basis for that in the course in the past, like if they're like homework questions, other things like that, so I know exactly what to study and what to be prepared for. And it's pretty straightforward, but I would say talking to your professors and just talking to your professors with the intention of understanding what they want from you is a really important and valuable thing. Number 5, which is going to be my final thing, I'm going to tell you about the resources that you should use, because using resources is a good piece of advice I can give you. The first resource, I would say, is there are tutors for each class, and you should not be afraid to use them, because everybody at Simon's Rock will use a tutor at one point or another, and letting your own pride get in the way of doing that is just hurting yourself. And don't do that. Just ask a tutor. And if you can't ask a tutor, ask a friend in your class, and don't be afraid of the fact that you don't know, because a lot of times people don't know themselves, so it's not your own thing. Usually if you don't know something, or something in the class is difficult, there's probably another person in the class who's also finding that thing difficult or doesn't know that thing. So I really wouldn't stress about it. You're just going to be the smarter one who can get over it if they are able to access a tutor and access the resources available. Separate from that, different professors have different policies on office hours, but if they like people coming to their office hours, that's a really good place to go and talk to them and ask them questions. And third, if you go in on the first day, I always do this. I always go in on the first day, depending on the size of the class, and ask people if they want to join a group chat or a Snapchat group chat or an Instagram like DM group chat, kind of thing. And I always set up group chats for the class. And I had this one French course that was really difficult and was really time consuming. It was like 4 credits and 2 semesters and crazy. So we set up a group chat, and a lot of times we would be doing homework, and if we didn't understand a concept, we'd ask somebody like, what textbook page is it, or like to explain it further, or like if they got something different than we did. And that helped so much about the homework, because we would know also, besides just what we didn't know, we would know what people in general didn't know. So then the next day, if we all came in and we were all like, we collectively did not understand question 5 or what it was asking, the professor was more willing to be like, okay, well, if everybody didn't understand that, then that makes more sense, and I should probably reword that, or I'll explain it to you now and let you redo it. So that helped a lot for really challenging class that I was in, but has helped many other times when that inevitable point comes when you forgot to write down the homework, which will happen. Like, you will forget at least one time what the homework is. You can't get by a semester without like forgetting what the homework assignment is once, and then desperately searching your phone for contact information for anybody in your class, but oops, you don't know any of them, because that's happened to me. And the best thing I did was make a group chat, so then the next time that happened, I could just text them and they would be like, oh, the homework is page 25 and questions 3 through 7. So that's kind of the best thing to do, and that's like a lighter note to leave you off. But those are my advice. Start early, talk to your professors. They all want different things. Use your resources and look at the syllabus and use the percentages. Those are my 5 little tips. I can maybe do an episode on study tips sometime. I don't know if anybody would like that, but if you would, I would give us feedback anytime. You can leave comments on the page, or you can email me directly, weeklycad@gmail.com, or wmarion18@simons-rock.edu. And if you want to get to me quicker, you can DM the Weekly Cad on Instagram @theweeklycad, and I will respond to you. By the way, if you're doing that, you could always just hit us up with a follow right there. And if you wanted to see more on our website, you could go to weeklycad.com, weeklycad.com, and we'd love to have you there at our website. So leave us some feedback, let us know, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, which is the Weekly Cad. Pretty straightforward, but I hope you liked this episode, and let us know what you thought.